Steve agus fáiltgadí Rula Bula. Episode 2 of my Artfight prep. I'll talk about today's Blurbo in a moment, but Artfight has announced the date that they will reveal the teams. Still devastated over no comedy versus tragedy. I honestly don't think I'll ever get over it, but I'm looking forward to seeing what won the vote. My money's on City Lights versus Moonlit Nights. The visual alone is beautiful, but it also has a lot of room for interpretation, so themed OCs are likely to be super diverse and interesting. I'm also a little biased because two of my OCs have a story I've been calling Moonlit Waltz, which is perfect for this. One of them's already up on Artfight from last year with an almost up-to-date reference, but the other's still in the whip washing machine, so I guess I'll have even more work to do then if the theme wins. I've heard some people talk about some of the other themes like Fossil vs Crystal, or I think it was Heartache vs Heartthrob, something to that effect anyway. I'd be more inclined towards the second one, but Fossil vs Crystal could have some really cool ideas too. Really, I think I'd be happy with any of the team options, just a theme after all. Anyway, I recommend reading the news post for the full details, but the livestream is being held on the 22nd, and leading up to it there's going to be a number of fun mini-games and small events that you can participate in. No Artfight required. At this point I'm seriously considering doing an Artfight tutorial video, but balancing life stuff with YouTube is proving to be a bit difficult. Plus I'm prepping a couple videos for July ahead of time since I'll be spending nearly all my free time doing Artfight, which means a bigger load of editing over the next 2 weeks. I'll see what I can do though, you know? I'm going to talk about my beloved Blurbo now, but for a disclaimer, this guy's name is Romanian and I am not Romanian. I might say it kinda wrong despite my best efforts to say it kinda right. Anyway, this is Iulian. Drawing this guy was very important to me because I've been changing his design constantly for years now, never quite settling on one thing over another, but having a vague idea as to what I want him to come across as. Thankfully, Artfight has forced me into making one single reference for him, which in turn forced me to nail down the design. It's something I might go back to later and alter slightly, but I think it suits him for now. It was also important that I made a ref sheet for him because he's also the final member I have to upload on Artfight of what I call the Road Trip Gang. Comprised of Devon from my first video on this channel, Amias from my second, and that Wandsman and Fairy duo I've mentioned a couple times now but have yet to talk about properly. I struggled a lot with nailing down his face. It's not the kind of shape I'm used to drawing, plus for some reason I just could not get his eyes right. Something I find important about designing an OC is making them all recognisably different from each other while also conveying something about the character. Take Amias for example. He has a rather soft expression and downturned eyes because he's normally a very gentle and kind person, but also has some sharper features to show that there's still an edge to him. With Iulian, I wanted to convey someone who's sturdy, strong, and possibly a bit asocial. His first impression would be rather intimidating, especially considering his height and strength, but that impression would be subverted to reveal he's actually a very helpful and supportive guy that loves people and is actually really good with them. Speaking of impressions, the final drawing makes him look a lot older than he is. His 5 o'clock shadow, messy hair, and permanent eye bags do him no favours in that regard. But he's in and around the same age as everyone else in the gang at 23 years old. He's been that age for a very long time, though most of it was spent being trapped in a cursed sword. You see, Iulian is a prince. He was the youngest of 3, but the best with people, and was sent on a diplomatic mission to try and start some peace talks between his own kingdom and the very prosperous kingdom of Wrath. Great name, I know, you can hold your applause. Their new king had been making some questionable decisions that could spell out a very bad outcome for the rest of the world if nothing was done about it. What Iulian didn't know was that the king was a powerful warlock. The king, seeking offence in everything Iulian said or did, and twisting his every word to find insult that wasn't there, cursed him as a punishment. Iulian was sealed away inside an enchanted sword, unable to stop as the horrible king waged war against the world and used him to kill so many innocents. His awareness was limited, but he noticed at some point that nobody was wielding him anymore. He was sheathed and shut away from the world for how long, he didn't know. One day, as if by miracle, he was unsheathed once more, but he couldn't communicate to the person wielding the sword, and they continued to use him to fight and kill. The sword was passed on and on and on, and Iulian was forced to be a spectator to all the violence that he was being used for again and again and again. At some point he was passed on to a warlock. Initially, his impression of the warlock was understandably not positive, but the warlock was able to sense Iulian in the sword and did their best to try and break the curse. Their limited knowledge of the curse and its workings prevented them from completely breaking it, but they were able to alter the rules slightly. Iulian would be freed from the sword so long as it remained unsheathed. The two bodies were still connected though, and any damage done to the sword would be done to Iulian and vice versa. Iulian had never been more grateful and travelled with the warlock briefly, helping where he could. After some time, the two parted ways and Iulian tried to adapt to the world after so long deprived of it. Things didn't go brilliantly though. Eventually, after time and time again of being chased out of every village he wandered into, one mob was dedicated enough to chase him through the woods. Not willing to settle for simply gone, he stumbled into a small grove with a large rock at the centre. The villagers surrounded him, trying to kill him, but no matter what they did to him, he never fought back. Iulian couldn't bring himself to cause any more violence, no matter how justified it seemed. So they knocked him out, taking the sword off him, and sealed the sword inside that rock. With that, Iulian's body vanished, cut off once more from the world. The grove was abandoned, forgotten about to most. Until one day, a half-marrow, half-siren came crawling in while trying to get away from poachers. He pulled the sword out, hoping to use it to defend himself with, but was blinded by light as Iulian was released from his prison once more. Without a second thought, Iulian leaped into action, picking up the sword and swinging it at the poachers. It wasn't hard to scare them away, and he was thankful for it, because with the damage the sword had taken after being abandoned for so long, he wasn't sure that he could win a fight against all of them, even if he wanted to fight. Iulian checked on the half-marrow, half-siren who, after some language troubles, managed to introduce himself as Devon. Iulian noticed his injuries among a few other things. He insisted that he help Devon find someone to heal him, and that they get some food together. Devon was hesitant, but Iulian told him that a little white lie about a hero's journey and that helping people was a requirement, and then sweetened the deal with a very true promise to take him wherever he wanted afterwards. Devon eventually agreed, and Iulian carried him down a nearby road. A little while later, they came across a campsite with a travelling wandsman and a fairy. Iulian immediately recognised him as a warlock and was suspicious, but the wandsman seemed nothing but kind and generous. The fairy healed him and Devon, and the wandsman included them in their dinner. With dinner eaten, the wandsman extended an offer for the both of them to travel with him. Iulian recalled what had happened when he travelled alone, as well as the kindness offered to him now. He considered the strange clothing and languages that told him he'd missed an awful lot, and recognised he'd need some help to navigate this different world. Plus, the potential help with his curse sweetened the deal significantly. With no real reasons to decline the offer, he accepted. And so, his lie about being on a hero's journey actually ended up being a little bit true by the end. Okay, so, on to his names now. As a forewarning, I am Irish. I only speak Irish and English and the bare minimum of French, and all of these names are either Romanian or Slavic to some degree. I've asked my darling dearest friend, who is Romanian and may or may not be a vampire, how these should be pronounced since online sources were limited. I cannot promise the pronunciation will be perfect, but I am trying. That being said, his full name is Iulian, Ialjan, Costiniel, Vasile, Ladislau, Draculeste. Apologies for how it sounds like I'm just listing off names. I spent the entire week practicing these, which is why this video is coming out at the end of it, and even then it still took me 20 minutes of practice today to be able to actually say the words, which I had to do different takes for as well, so sorry. You might be thinking, that's a fair number of names. Well, it is, and there is a lore reason for that, and given the fact that you're asking, it probably means that you missed the lore dump in the last episode, so I will give you a quick summary here, and that is that Iulian is from the western continent, Kados, where fairies are more common, and fairies, they're known to steal your names, so people give their children an awful lot of names to try and prevent them from having their names stolen. On to the name meanings. Iulian is the chosen name, and it means youthful. Iulian is the first of 4 given names and means noble or well-born. Costiniel means constant and steadfast. Vasile means king or royalty. Ladislao means to rule with glory. And now the family name, which for whatever reason I seem completely incapable of pronouncing on the first go. Draculește is derived from the Romanian word for dragon, but in modern day almost always means devil, and in real life it was used to reference the descendants of Vlad II Dracul, like Vlad III Dracul, aka Vlad the Impaler. The reference to dragons makes complete lore sense within Pythera, even if the dragon ties aren't really used nowadays, and the devil ties in relation to Dracula was because he's meant to look like a vampire, and the noble ties made sense given that he's royalty. Overall, a very fitting family name. I've had another 10-minute segment tied on to the end of this, full of just outtakes from me trying to read the script for this video. I don't know what it was about this particular script, but for whatever reason, I just seem like allergic to it completely. I have also had to stop myself from calling Iulian Prince this entire video. In Amias' video, I said that Amias was not the only character I'd been calling by like some kind of trait throughout their development into an actual character. Amias got vampire, Prince here got prince, and while vampire isn't typically a name, so it was a pretty easy transition, prince can be used as a name. So the amount of times I just had to stop like the recording and cut out the fact that I used prince and not Iulian, oh my god. Anyway, I love Iulian so much, and he has actually inspired me to try and learn a bit of Romanian. Also for my friend, but a lot for him too, you know? And with that, the video finally comes to an end. I still highly recommend giving Artfight a look-see. I will try and get that tutorial video done, schedule permitting. And slán go fóill!